Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to part 20 of the GTO Trainer. First hand here. We open in the hijack with pocket queens and get 3-bet from the small blind. Big blind folds. So it's going to be a very, very tight, strong range here from the small blind. They're going to be acting first. They've still got the big blind to act behind as well. Wouldn't be as tight as it would be if we were opening from under the gun, but we're in about middle position. With position on them, I reckon this is going to be a standard 4-bet. Try to isolate a little bit of a stronger range. When they come over the top with a 5-bet, I reckon we can easily fold this. So they're saying that's a blunder, so they're saying an all-in. I definitely understand it from a GTO point of view, but I don't really see it as being a bluff at all. So yeah, I guess queens is kind of bottom of our range. So yeah, I guess kind of if we're putting in that 4-bet, we're kind of pricing ourselves in for the 5-bet jam. It's pretty much jam or nothing. There's definitely no point in calling there. Calling's only really going to get you into a situation where, especially because they're out of position, it allows them to take that initiative and kind of just jam straight off the bat, putting you into a decently tough position. So you want to be, if you already know that the stack to pot ratio is going to be to a point where you're going to be all in on the flop anyways, you want to be the one that's taking that initiative, because then you can be denying equity to your opponent. Obviously here's a 50-50, but they may fold, ace king at a very slim frequency, but that's enough for it to be far more worth it if you already know that you're probably going to be calling off or stacking off when on the flop, but you might be able to deny that equity, and then that means you can just take down the pot there and then, which is what you're allowed when probably one of the only real benefits of being out of position is you are afforded the initiative, essentially. If you want to jam and take the initiative of the jam, you have the initiative, and you can kind of put your opponent in a very reactive type of play, which is kind of pretty much the only real benefit of playing out of position. So you can take advantage of that, and that's what you would much rather do from the hijack here. Take the initiative, go all in. I can definitely understand it. I was just kind of in more of not the GTO type of frame mind, but even without a GTO frame mind, because no one's really going to be 5-bet bluffing. Maybe with ace king, it's probably the bottom of range. I think it really is bottom of range. Like, we have a look here. Yeah, so they've got some bluffs, obviously, in order to balance out that range. I'm surprised that they don't have kings here. Maybe kings is a flat, maybe. But yeah, pretty much ace king, bottom of range, 50-50 with them. Makes pretty well sense to me. Probably that should have been the easy play. Hang on, let me close that real quick. So facing an open from the low jack and the cutoff with ace 5 offsuit, going to be a standard fold. A lot of dominating issues, so dominated. 3 players to act behind as well. Just not a whole lot going for us. Suited, obviously, I believe would be a 3-bet. Adds a lot more equity. Use it to balance out your 3-bet bluffs. Facing a very tight and strong under the gun +1 open. Folds around to us in the small blind with 8 deuce suited. So suited, your suited connectors you would love in the big blind, small blind not as much, especially facing such a strong under the gun range. We are still calling at a small frequency of our suited connectors that play the best up against this very strong under the gun range, because they don't really have many situations where they're going to be dominated. They don't have many situations where you might feel priced in, or you might feel like it's too strong to fold and you end up losing a big pot. Especially out of position as we are in the small blind. So you can easily just kind of, didn't hit, throw it away, or you can go, we hit, win a big pot, and use the implied odds to make up for any equity deficient Moving on to the next hand, once again, very, very strong, under the gun +1 open. Folds around to us in the big blind. 5 deuce offsuit. I don't even think if it was suited would be calling. Maybe like a 5-4 suited would be in there. So yeah, we got pretty much calling with all of our suited connectors, even raising into small frequency. But just offsuit and a little bit too, like that's a double gapper, just a little bit too wide. But you know, if that was more of a 5-4, bang, we're in there. Plenty of post flop potential, plenty of implied odds to make up for a lot of things. Exactly the same in this situation. So we're facing it over from the small blind when big blind 4-3 suited. We're going to utilize our position. Just call here. We also got fantastic pot odds as well because we already have 1. So we only needed to call an extra 2 in order to win 4 bigs. So great pot odds especially with these hands that have a lot of post flop potential, a lot of implied odds to make up for even if you have any equity disparity, and then plays really, really well post flop. So we've got ace 3 deuce, 2 spades. This does hit a small blind's opening range, a lot of ace highs. We do have second pair on this board, and position as well, so I'm going to elect to call. We pick up no additional equity. We still have a gut shot to a 5 for a straight. When they check, we're going to easily check this one back, try to get one more free card. When they go about 60% pot, when jacks also hit their range as well, the front door flush does brick. There's no real back doors. The only real straight is 4-5, which could still be in their range as well. But I reckon we can easily just fold this one. They're saying no fold. They're saying a call, okay. So I'm guessing they think they're just barreling with something like a king high, a queen high. Maybe some suited connectors that didn't get there. Because the only real bluffs they're getting here with is, you know, miss flush draw, some king highs, some queen highs, some like king 9, king 10, queen 10, those type of hands, or even some king queen. Is probably, and then like miss flush draws as well. I don't really, I get like, especially on a paired board, I can kind of understand, yeah, okay, third pair here gets bumped up a lot. The likelihood that they have a jack obviously decreases. When there's already 2 of them out there, it just means there's a lot less combos for them to have a jack. So third pair does go up in strength a little bit. But I think especially when if they went with a little bit more of a smaller sizing, like a 1/5, 1/4 pot, I reckon you can easily snap that off, no stress. But when they go about 60% pot, I don't know, especially when the ace hits their ace hits them a lot, jacks hit them a lot. They're not getting here with a whole lot of bluffs, and it just really slams their range. Like if we have a look at what their range is here, got a lot of jacks in it, got a lot of aces in it, but yes, you do have a lot of you know, king highs, queen highs that are here as well. Even, you know, some kings that are out kicking us as well in terms of king deuce, king 3. And then plenty of jacks, some suited connectors that miss, you know, front door flush did brick. Obviously snap calling with all aces pretty much. That one I have absolutely no problem with. You know, I'd snap call with every ace that I have. Some stronger pocket pairs, I can also hear that as well. I just think the 3 is just a little bit too weak. But I guess maybe 3 can kind of be treated the same. Like, I mean, 9s has probably the same property as having a 3, in my opinion. So I don't know why we're folding all of our, like, folding 100% of the time with 9s, but then we're calling with a 3. That doesn't make too much sense. I'll be more likely to call with a 9 than I will with pocket 9. But I guess they're kind of treated the same. Both of them are off the board. Both of them are the third pair. So I would have thought they would kind of be treated the exact same. Like, why are we calling with the 3 when we're not calling with 9s? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. And then obviously raising our jacks for value. King Queen here is a bluff. Decent bluffing candidate. Yeah, I don't really personally agree with a bluff catching there. just when the ace high hits their board and they take such a large river sizing. If it was a smaller river sizing, then I would probably call it off. Moving on to the next hand. Very tight, strong, under the gun +1 range open. We've got Queen 6 in the hijack. Not suited, not enough equity, and then also a lot of outkicked situations where we can lose a big pot. Moving on to the next hand, hijack opens. We've got ace 8 in the cutoff. This is going to be a standard 3-bet. Folds back around, hijack calls. Ace 9-6 board. I reckon we take a nice small sizing here. They're probably saying an even smaller one. But then we get re-raised. Then we get 3-bet on the flop. Over-betting, well, actually no, that is, so they're betting pot. We just got a marginal kicker. We are playing in position. We don't really have any back doors. I'm just going to select to fold. So yeah, once again saying just a call here. Okay, hang on, let's have a look here. So let's go. So they're saying we should check this back. I guess the idea is a very dry, static board. Kind of to allow them to catch up and bluff catch, I'm guessing, is kind of the play, is what they're trying to say. They've obviously got a capped range here. So a lot of their capped range doesn't really connect too well with this, aside from like 2 pairs, like ace 9, ace 6. And then, yeah, pretty much the only other ones are under pairs or sets, pretty much. And then maybe some open-enders in terms of 7-8 suiteds in there as well. So yeah, they're saying check. I go for small sizing, so they're saying we should check that back, okay. Then they go with a very large sizing about pot. See, I don't understand a call here. Like, I understand, yes, we've got top pair, but I'll definitely want a better kicker in this situation. Just because I feel like, our 8 kicker, yes, it gives us some, we got to run a flush, straight draw, I guess, at something. But then I would want some additional equity to have here when I'm facing a pot size 3-bet on a very dry, static board. Like, there's not a lot here that he can be 3-betting us with unless it's just pure air. Like, he's got an extremely, extremely polarizing range here, and I feel like if I'm calling this, I'm kind of already incentivized to pretty much call all the way down, and we just don't have any real chances to improve unless we hit an ace or an 8, pretty much. So I just don't really see, and even if we do hit our aces, like an ace as well, if you got to consider that they've got a very polarized range here, they could have a set that's just hit into a full house, and then you're just going to end up losing an even bigger pot. So it's one of those where I reckon even if you do catch up, your catch up is still miles behind. Like, they've already finished the marathon while you're trying to catch up. You're catching up to them, but they've already finished. So their time's already jotted down. Doesn't matter how much you're catching up, you're already going to come in second. So this just doesn't really make any sense to me. I understand, yeah, we've got top pair, but I feel like this is one of those where we're kind of overplaying our hand. We took a standard C bet on a board that does slam our range. We're gonna have far more. We're not capped. They're capped. We're gonna have far more strong ace X's. They also know that, and they've gone with a pot size bet, most likely trying to isolate strong ace X's that are they know that they're going to be able to get all the money. And then we're pretty much going like, okay, I'm not really going to overplay my ace 8 here. We're even doing this with ace 7, ace 5 as well. Things that just have no back doors at all. We're kind of, that's it. That's our hand pretty much. All we got is an ace pair. You're saying we're even calling with queen jack suited. Why are we calling with queen jack suited? That's 2 undercards to the ace. That makes no sense as well. You're saying we're even calling 50% time with queen 10 suited. Why are we doing that? Once again, just no back door. Like, I would much rather have some form of draw to be able to go like, okay, we've got some equity here. We can improve. We're clearly behind. If you have a look at what they've got here, yes, or they've got some bluffs, but they've also got some better ace X's. Yes, a lot of bluffs here as well. Some open-enders. Definitely some bluffs here. But we're pretty much now, when we call here, we're pretty much incentivized to go like, okay, we don't believe you've got anything. If the straight bricks, we're going to have to snap you off all the way because we think you have a bluff. And then we're almost going, okay, we're happy to give away our 100 big blinds. That's essentially what this call is saying, unless we're going with a... Because we just know that they're either got a stone cold bluff or they've got an incredible value when they've taken this sizing on the flop. If they had a call, we can still say, they could have some like the open ender, some weaker ace X's, just a pair of nines, just air that just wants to see us fire a second bullet. We can keep in a lot of hands that we're still beating if they've just called. But when they've taken this sizing, they've just become so polarized, and it's just... I don't really see the idea of continuing here unless we've gone, okay, well, we're committed to give away 100 big blinds, which I'm never going to be committed to give away 100 big blinds on an ace top pair with a marginal kicker when someone's taken this sizing. I reckon this is a send from the heavens of, hey, we're going to let you get away with this hand. They've got a monster and they're letting you off easy, and you should take that to get off easy. So I definitely don't agree with this at all. Moving on to the next hand. Low jack opens. We 3-bet in the big blind with queen jack suited, and then low jack jams. That's just going to be an easy snap fold. I don't understand that jam at all. Doesn't make any sense. We're pretty much, as you can see here, we're pretty much calling with only... I don't even like calling with jacks, realistically. I think that's just, giving them a little bit too much credit and kind of giving them exactly what they want, which is they're pretty much putting something on their forehead that says, hey, we can't play post-flop. Hey, I don't know how to do this. Hey, I've got a really good hand. I can't play post-flop. I don't know how to get value. Let me just jam and pray to God I get lucky. And you should not allow players like that to do that. If you back yourself as a good poker player, you should be wanting to always be playing post-flop, especially players like this that would just jam for some reason, or like pretty much over jam the pot with a good hand. Okay, you shouldn't allow them. You shouldn't decrease your edge. Essentially, is what I'm saying. If you believe that you're a good poker player, you should be wanting to realize your edge as much as possible, and you want to identify where is my edge, and your edge is not allowing these players to use variance to their advantage. Like if we call off here, yeah, okay, you're saying, if you're folding jacks here, you might be exploitable. They're taking advantage of that. And you could be exploiting them and saying, hey, I'm not going to be calling with jacks here. Hey, I'm not going to be calling with queens here. I'm pretty much just going to call you with aces, and I'm just going to call you with kings. Okay, at the end of the day, kings, is one of those where, even if you think they got aces, you kind of just got to call the kings. Okay, but queens and jacks, I reckon you can still get away with those and kind of be like, well, I'm not going to let you have this. And I'm gonna wait my turn. Like, this is not a tournament. This is a cash game. Wait your turn until you're able to realize your edge. You don't have to try and win every single hand. So I feel like, jacks, queens in that situation, I'd still probably be like, I'm kind of gonna fold here. Moving on to the next hand, folds all the way. We open in small blind with ace-3 suited, 3-bet from the big blind, 3x sizing. Getting good odds to... Are we getting good odds to call? So what, we'll call in 10 to win 13. Playing heads up, out of position, a weak ace. We are suited. I guess the theory might be, we're trying to balance out our calling range, make sure it doesn't become too weak. So that's why I could understand a call here. So yeah, I'm going to elect with a call. 7-6 deuce, 2 spades. We've got a flush draw, and that's about it. We're going to check and flow, just kind of see what they're doing. They go about 1/4 pot. So again, very, very good odds to chase our flush draw. We're going to call. Jack rolls off, so we have, what is it? So 4. We have 8 out, so about 16% equity. We're going to check again, try and see if we can get a free card here, see if we hit our flush, and they go a pot size bet. We're just going to be able to snap fold. So they're saying pre-flop we should have 3-bet. I don't understand a 3-bet there. My idea would be that we've already isolated a heads-up situation, which is kind of your aim of pre-flop, is to isolate a heads-up situation. We've already done that. And then on top of that, we're also out of position. So my theory is that, obviously, when you're out of position, play more defense. When in position, play more offense. And when you're out of position and you've already isolated a heads-up situation, the idea from like under the gun +1, the reason why you want to be raising that up is so that you can isolate a heads-up situation. You're not raising from under the gun with the idea of, hey, I want to play a big pot from under the gun. You're raising so that you're playing a pot against one person, okay? Because you don't want to be out of position to multiple people. If you're going to be out of position, you want to be out of position to only one person at the best of times. So when you've already got this set up, I don't really see any reason to put more money in when you've already got the best setup you can in this situation. You're in the small blind, you're up against a very wide big blind 3-bet range, still very wide from the big blind. What's the point in bloating up this pot, playing a bigger pot than you would have otherwise against a very, very tight, strong, big blind 3-betting? Like, it is wide, but you're essentially bloating up a pot that you're going to be playing out of position heads up. All of a sudden, instead of playing, like, we have a nice 20 big blind pot here, okay, out of position, instead we're playing a 42 big blind pot, and all of a sudden, okay, we've got about 2 SBR of 2 instead of an SBR of just over 4. Okay, and especially when we've got a weaker hand that we're not overly comfortable with putting all the chips in, unless we hit our flush, obviously, or another really, really strong hand. I just don't really see a reason to be putting ourselves in such a terrible situation. We've already got the perfect situation. We're heads up, out of position. Well, the perfect situation that we can in our position. Okay. We're out of position to the person that we most want to be out of position to. Okay. We've got a hand that can very much win a big pot. We have a lot of implied odds. And we want to keep the pot at the moment pretty small. So that we have plenty of time to, especially because we have a drawing hand as well, we want to give ourselves plenty of wiggle room in terms of SBR to be able to hit our draw. If we've already got 42 bigs in there, okay, it could happen a lot of times that we might get bluffed off, and we might not be able to realize our equity. If he just goes pot on the flop, fold. Straight away, even if we got a flush draw, you got to fold, and you're denied your equity that you otherwise might not have been if the pot's a little bit smaller, because they're incentivized to kind of, maneuver a little bit more. There's still a lot of money to try and get into the pot for them, rather than the pot's already at this size. They're kind of incentivized to call with all these hands. It's good. There's already enough money in the pot as well, so I'm happy to either take down this pot or they call, and I think I'm ahead. Whereas if there's only 20 bigs in there, big blind over here, he's not going to be like, I've already got enough money in the pot. I'll just take the 20 big blinds. No, he'll probably try and get a lot more, and allow us to kind of catch up, allow us to hit our flush draw. He'll be more thinking, there's a flush out there, but I kind of want that flush to stay in, because then that's probably the only way I'm going to get the money off him. Okay, so I don't understand the raise here. A, it probably isolates a more stronger range that we don't want when we're out of position, and B, we don't want to be playing a bloated big pot out of position when we've already isolated the heads-up position. So this just makes no sense to me. So I reckon if this was like flipped, I could understand it a little bit more, but even this, I don't. Maybe the only idea I can have there is really that they're just like, let's start to narrow down the big blind's range because it's just too wide at the moment. But you kind of want to keep it pretty nice and wide. We've got a polarizing hand in the fashion that we either hit our flush or we don't. If we don't hit our flush, we fold. If we hit our flush, we win a big pot. And we go for value. We're either trying to hit our draw or we're going for value. Okay, and it's one of those hands. Like, even if we had an ace, we're pretty happy. We've got a 3 kicker. We're not going to be falling in love with it. So it's fine to just easily, without too much thought of going, yeah, I can just throw that away without thinking too much about it. But yeah. So facing a very strong tight under the gun open, we're in the small blind with Jack 3 suited. Standard snap fold to finish it off. Pretty tame end to the session. Very good session though. A lot of hands where I'm disagreeing with GTO, but that's kind of the whole point of this, You don't want to just be blatantly, cookie cutter following GTO. You want to be almost debating with GTO and, use what they're saying and then kind of go, okay, well, this is how I think about it, and then kind of use all of that together to try to build your poker philosophy and build how you want to be playing in certain spots. So 10 hands, 20 moves, 77 GTO score, 14 best moves, 3 correct moves, 2 wrong moves, and then 1 blunder. The 1 blunder being folding pocket queens. Was it an all-in? No, it wasn't an all-in. It was just a standard. It was a 5 bet, and we should have gone all-in. That one I agree with. We can possibly bluff them off ace-king or bluff them off a flip. Take down what's already a decently sized pot as a pretty much best case scenario, and then and then still be able to balance out our 6 bet all-ins pretty much. Say that we still have queens in this spot. We don't just have aces and we don't just have kings. And the other one, they say I should have been bluff catching with the pair of 3s. On an ace-high board versus the small blind. That one I just don't agree with personally. Everything kind of like, yes, sure, the only draw that bricks there, unless they also have a 4 potentially, but the only draw that bricks there that I think they would have is a flush draw. And then, yes, paired board, they're less likely to have a jack, far less combos. But I just don't really reckon a 3. And also our kick is terrible as well. But there's just so many aces in their range there, and that's how they'll probably play an ace as well. And they just took far too big of a sizing on the river. Got way too greedy. They went something more like 30%, 20% pot, 25% pot. I probably would have snapped it off. But 60% pot, just way too greedy on their end. And they're saying we should have been calling here on the massive. So yeah, so we had our little stab here of about 1/3 pot. We had our little stab here on the ace high board. We have all the mostly because we have range advantage there. We have top of range. They don't have top of range. They capped themselves off. But then they went with a massive pot size with no backdoors. All we have is a vulnerable top pair. We're pretty much at that point going, okay, we think you have a bluff, and if we think you have a bluff, we got to go all the way unless the straight gets there. So you pretty much something. I remember I was taking the masterclass course that Daniel Negreanu was doing. Okay, and something that he talked about. No, it was the Phil Ivey one, I think. Okay, well, one of them. But they were talking about how you got to be thinking a couple streets ahead, Don't just think about your call on this street in isolation. You got to be thinking, okay, what does the call here imply for the next street? How does the call on the flop then apply to the turn, then apply to the river? And, my thought process of, I'm not just calling the 18 bigs here, I'm basically saying, hey, I think you have a bluff. This is a very dry, static board. You've either smashed it or you've completely missed. And if I'm calling you here, I think you've completely missed. And if I have that thought process, I've got to go all the way. So I'm effectively calling every single street now. And if I'm not, why would I waste the 14 bigs here? Unless I'm going to go... If I was 100% hellbound of, hey, I think you have a bluff here, then I've already committed. I'm happy to stack off. If he's hit some funny pair, 2 pairs, 3 of a kind, he's hit a straight, something like that, then so be it. But if I'm calling this 14 bigs, in my mind, I've gone, I don't think you have anything, I'm prepared to stack off. And that's what my thought process of calling the 14 bigs there. Like, I'm not just calling 14 bigs, I'm effectively prepared to call 100 big blinds. If you went all in on the next street, I've already committed to calling that in my mind. That's what I'm saying. So with no backdoors, no nothing, I think that's a standard snap fold, even with position. Like, if we have position, we can kind of play a little bit more straights here and there. The ace-3 hand, that's where we had another of the correct, so yeah, there's our two wrong moves, and then we had one of our major correct moves. So they're saying, where was it? So yeah, there's the standard snap fold, and our flush doesn't get there. So yeah, they're saying we should be going 21. So the only reason that I can find of why we will do that is they're saying they want to isolate, I'm guessing. But that just makes no sense. We're already heads up. We're already out of position. We don't want to be playing a big pot. Pretty standard stuff. And we want to have enough maneuverability because we've got a drawing hand. You know, if we had aces, ace-king, if we've got, like, we hit top pair, we want the SBR nice and low so that no draws, then we can deny equity. But when we're the ones that have the draws, we want there to be plenty of wiggle room, you know? You know, you're not going to be able to realize your equity, see your draw, if you've only got, like, the flop to do it. If you're all in on the flop straight away, then you're not going to be able to realize your equity and you're not going to be able to see your draw. So you want to allow there to be enough movability. Be able to see things. Manifest. Okay? I think that's the wrong word, but yeah. You want to give your draw enough space. Give it a little bit of breathing room. But yeah, hope you guys learned something today. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day. And play well.